The room was silent except for the hum of strange machines. Dr. Adrian Cole, a human scientist, stood alone in the underground lab. His face was pale under the cold lights. Around him, wires and glowing crystals pulsed with an unnatural rhythm. He had worked for years on this experiment, an experiment that no human was meant to attempt. On the steel table before him lay an ancient book, its cover black as burned wood. The pages whispered when touched as if alive. Adrian had found it hidden in the ruins of a forgotten colony, where others had died simply by touching it. But Adrian was different. He believed knowledge was worth any risk. Now with shaking hands he read the final words of the summoning ritual. The lights in the lab flickered. The machine screamed. A circle of fire erupted around the table and shadows rose like living smoke. Adrian did not step back. His eyes stayed fixed on the heart of the circle. From the flames, a figure emerged. She was tall, with long, dark hair that seemed to float as if underwater. Her skin glowed faintly, and her eyes burned like red suns. 2 curved horns rose from her head, sharp yet elegant. A pair of black wings folded behind her, their tips sparking with embers. She was beautiful and terrifying at once. The succubus had arrived. Her lips curved into a slow smile as she looked at the human who had dared summon her. She expected fear. She expected begging. That was always how it began. But Adrian only watched her with calm, steady eyes. "You are brave," she said, her voice soft yet echoing like thunder in the room. "Few mortals summon me and survive the first breath of my fire. Tell me, human, what do you desire? I am bound to grant you 3 wishes. Choose carefully." Her wings unfolded slightly, the heat of her presence filling the lab like a burning desert wind. Adrian's heart raced, but his voice was firm. 3 wishes? "Yes," she purred. 3 gifts from my power. Wealth, immortality, kingdoms, lovers, anything your heart desires. Speak and it is yours." She leaned closer, her red eyes glowing with hunger. Most men waste their first wish on greed. Gold, power, flesh. Their hearts are weak. But you— She studied his face with curiosity. "You look different." Adrian was silent for a moment. He thought of Earth, broken, divided, struggling after decades of alien wars. He thought of the endless greed of leaders who begged for power, and the arrogance of alien empires who looked down on humanity as insects. When he spoke, his words cut through the air like a blade. "My first wish," he said, "is that you tell me the truth." The succubus froze, her smile faltered. For the first time in centuries she was silent. "The truth?" she repeated slowly. "That is not a wish anyone has asked before." "Yes," Adrian said firmly. "I don't want lies. I don't want illusions. I want you to tell me the truth about what you are, why you exist, and why you grant humans these wishes." Her eyes narrowed. She felt a sting of fear, an emotion she had not known for ages. Mortals always asked for pleasures and treasures. They never questioned the nature of the contract itself. But this man had pierced through the veil in his very first demand. "You do not know what you ask," she whispered. "The truth is dangerous. The truth can break your mind. It can burn your soul." "I don't care," Adrian replied. "I want it. That is my first wish." The flames around them roared higher, almost tearing the lab apart. The succubus's wings spread wide, her power struggling against his command. She felt the ancient bonds of the ritual tightening. She could not deny him. Her beauty twisted for a moment into something darker, older, more monstrous. The air grew heavy, as if the weight of 1,000 worlds pressed down on the small room. "You fool," she hissed. "You may have doomed us both." But the words were not just anger. Beneath her voice was something else, uncertainty, fear, even a hint of respect. Adrian stood his ground. His body trembled, but his gaze never wavered. The succubus stepped back, folding her wings slowly. Her eyes glowed brighter, no longer with temptation, but with something far more dangerous. Revelation. "You wish for truth, human," she said at last. Her voice had lost its playful tone. It was sharp, like a blade of fire. "Then prepare yourself. For the truth is not a gift. It is a weapon, and once it is given, it cannot be taken back." The flames around them dimmed to embers, casting long shadows on the steel walls. Adrian took a deep breath, steady as stone. "I am ready." The succubus looked at him for a long moment, and in her ancient heart she felt something she had not felt in 1,000 years. Hesitation. For the first time, she was not in control. The story had just begun. The flames around the summoning circle had dimmed, but the air still shook with invisible power. Dr. Adrian Cole stood still, his hands at his side, refusing to show fear. Across from him, the succubus's red eyes glowed like burning stars. Her wings trembled slightly, and for the first time in centuries, she did not wear her confident smile. He had forced her to do something no other human had ever dared. Speak the truth. The silence stretched. It was heavy, crushing, as though the universe itself waited for her answer. At last, the succubus lowered her head slightly. You do not understand what you have asked. The truth is not a treasure, it is poison. It will not make you rich. It will not make you powerful. It will only put chains around your neck. Adrian's voice was calm. Even so, that is my wish. She studied him carefully. His face was pale, but his eyes did not break. There was no hunger for gold or lust for pleasures, only determination. The succubus laughed softly, though the sound carried no joy. Strange human. You remind me of someone, long ago. With a single step, she crossed the burning circle. The fire did not harm her, but the machines around the room sparked and groaned, their circuits frying from the heat. She stood before Adrian, close enough for him to feel the dangerous warmth of her presence. You want truth? She said in a low voice. Then listen. The shadows of the room began to move on their own, swirling around her like smoke caught in a storm. Her horns glowed faintly, and her wings spread wide until the ceiling lights shattered. The lab was plunged into darkness, lit only by her fiery glow. In your stories, she began, succubi are demons of desire. You call us temptresses thieves of souls. That is not false, but it is not the whole truth either. We are not born. We are made, Adrian frowned. Made by whom? Her smile returned, bitter this time. By the Watchers, the ones who rule beyond your stars. They are not gods, though humans once believed so. They are older than your species, older than your planet's cities. They shape creatures like me and bind us with contracts. My duty is simple. Grant wishes and in return take the human soul when the third wish is spoken. Adrian's jaw tightened. So every human who summoned you was tricked. Yes, she said softly. They believed themselves clever. They thought 3 wishes were gifts. But in truth, 3 wishes are a chain. Every man who stood where you stand now gave his life in the end. The words hit like thunder. Adrian felt a chill crawl up his spine, but he forced himself not to step back. Then why not kill me now? Why even let me make wishes? Because I cannot, she admitted. Her voice cracked for just a moment. I am bound to the rules. I must offer and you must choose. That is my prison. That is my curse. The room was silent again, broken only by the faint hum of dying machines. Adrian's mind raced. She had confirmed what he suspected. This was not random, not magic, but a system, a weapon, a trap built by ancient beings who saw humans as pawns. And now he had forced her to reveal it. The succubus stepped closer, lowering her voice. Do you see now, human? You have used your first wish on something dangerous. Others asked for kingdoms, armies, or immortality. They were greedy, foolish. You have asked for a truth that may cost more than your life. Adrian met her gaze. Knowledge is never wasted. Her eyes softened just for a second. She almost admired his stubbornness. Almost. But then the walls of the lab shuddered violently. A low hum filled the air, deep and alien, vibrating through the ground itself. Adrian turned sharply. What's happening? The succubus's face darkened. They have heard us. Who? The Watchers, she whispered. Your first wish has broken silence. They know a human has touched forbidden truth, and they are coming. The floor cracked. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Adrian's stomach dropped as he realized the danger was far greater than he imagined. Outside, in the night sky above the hidden facility, something moved. Satellites blinked out one by one. Stars disappeared behind vast shadows. Ships, massive, silent, had arrived in orbit. Back in the lab, the succubus folded her wings tight, her expression grim. You wanted truth, human. Now you must pay its price. The Watchers will not let you live. They will erase you. And me. Adrian clenched his fists. Then we fight. Her eyes widened in disbelief. Fight them? Do you even know what they are? I don't care, he said, his voice sharp. I will not let them erase humanity. I didn't summon you for riches. I summoned you to prove we are not slaves to anyone. For the first time in ages, the succubus felt something stir in her chest, something she thought long dead. It was not hunger. It was not cruelty. It was hope. But hope was dangerous. Hope could kill. The lab lights flickered once more, then died completely. The only light came from the succubus herself, glowing like fire in the dark. Her voice was low, heavy with warning. You may regret this path, Adrian Cole. Your first wish has already sealed your fate. Maybe, he said, his face lit by her burning glow. But at least it's my choice. The ground shook violently and the sound of something vast descending from the sky thundered across the night. The Watchers were here, the truth had been spoken. The price was coming due. The story was no longer just about a man and a demon. It was about humanity itself. The night sky above Earth was no longer filled with stars. One by one, the stars had vanished, swallowed by black shapes moving silently across the heavens. To the people of Earth, it looked like the beginning of an eclipse. To Adrian Cole, standing deep inside his ruined lab, it meant something far worse. The Watchers had arrived. The ground trembled as their ships broke through the atmosphere. They did not roar like human rockets. They slid through the sky like blades of shadow. Noiseless but unstoppable, cities went dark as power grids failed. Satellites blinked out. Communication died. Humanity was blind and deaf before the coming storm. Adrian stared upward through a cracked ceiling panel, his breath caught in his throat. His mind screamed at him to run, but his body stayed still. He could feel their presence, heavy and crushing, pressing against his thoughts like a giant hand. Beside him, the succubus spread her wings wide, her face hard. She knew them well, too well. The glow in her red eyes was dimmer now, as though even her fire feared their gaze. They are here for me, she said quietly. But because of you, they are also here for humanity. You have asked for truth, and they cannot allow your species to know it. Adrian turned sharply toward her. Then what do they want? To kill me? She shook her head. Not kill, erase. To wipe every trace of you of this place from existence. You will not even be remembered. A chill ran through him. Death he could face, but erasure? To vanish as though he had never lived? That was a horror even greater. The lab walls shook violently. Dust rained from above. Something had landed outside. Adrian grabbed a steel rod from the broken machinery, holding it like a weapon, though he knew it was useless. The succubus tilted her head at him, almost amused. You would fight them with that? It's better than waiting, he said firmly. The succubus gave a slow smile, though it carried no warmth. Strange human. The steel door at the far end of the lab began to glow, lines of burning red cutting across it. It melted inward like wax. From the smoke stepped figures, tall, silent, and wrong. They were not men. They were not beasts. Their bodies were thin and long, their skin pale as bone. Their faces had no mouths, only glowing black eyes that seemed to pull at the soul. They moved like shadows given form, and the air around them bent, as if even reality did not wish to touch them. Adrian's grip on the steel rod tightened. His heart pounded so hard he thought it might break his chest, yet he did not step back. The succubus lowered her voice. These are envoys, servants of the Watchers. They come first to test your will. The envoys moved closer. They did not speak with mouths, but their voices filled the lab, echoing inside Adrian's mind. Human. The word was heavy, shaking his thoughts. Your first wish has broken order. You are not permitted to know. Release the demon and surrender your mind. Adrian's body almost moved without his will. Their command pressed on him like chains, demanding obedience. His knees buckled, his vision blurred. He could feel his thoughts slipping away piece by piece, but then he heard another voice. Softer but stronger, the succubus. Fight them, she whispered. Do not bend. If you fall now, your species will be nothing but dust. Her voice cut through the fog in his head. Adrian gritted his teeth and forced himself upright. His hand shook on the steel rod, but his eyes blazed with stubborn fire. No, he growled. I won't surrender. The envoys tilted their heads in eerie unison. Their black eyes deepened, growing wider, hungrier. Adrian felt as if they were peeling him open, exposing every memory, every fear. They showed him visions, illusions of what they offered. He saw himself on a throne of stars, ruling galaxies. He saw endless wealth, endless pleasure. He saw immortality, power beyond gods. Speak, their voices thundered in his skull. Wish for this. Wish, and all will be yours. Adrian's body trembled. His mouth almost opened. The temptation was overwhelming, but then he remembered. He remembered Earth's burned cities, He remembered children hiding in ruined shelters. He remembered leaders who sold humanity piece by piece to alien overlords. And he remembered why he had summoned the succubus in the first place. Not for himself, not for greed, but for something greater. His voice cut through their illusions like a blade. I don't want your power. I don't want your lies. I want the truth. That is all. The illusions shattered like glass. The envoys hissed, a sound like knives scraping stone. The shadows around them writhed, growing darker. The succubus's eyes widened. She had not expected it. This human, standing with nothing but a steel rod, had resisted what even kings and emperors had failed to resist. You are different, she whispered, almost to herself. The envoy stepped back, their voices colder now. Then you will be erased. They raised their long arms, black energy gathering at their fingertips. The walls of the lab began to melt. The ground split. Adrian braced himself, knowing this was the end. But before the strike fell, the succubus stepped in front of him, her wings spreading wide like a shield of fire. Her voice rose, fierce and defiant. No, he is mine. For a moment, the envoys froze. The fire of her wings clashed with the darkness of their power, filling the lab with blinding light. Adrian stared at her in shock. For the first time, the succubus had chosen to stand against her masters, and in that moment he realized something terrifying. His first wish had not only brought truth, it had awakened rebellion. The light faded slowly. The lab was half destroyed. Its walls cracked, machines twisted into black metal ruins. Smoke curled in the air and the ground still shook faintly from the clash. Adrian Cole stood behind the succubus, his chest heaving with heavy breaths. He had not fallen to the envoy's illusions. He had not begged for their power. But now, with his lab ruined and shadow creatures still waiting beyond the broken door, he knew this battle was far from over. The succubus lowered her wings. Her red eyes flickered with strange emotion as she turned toward him. Do you understand what you've done, human? By refusing them, you have declared war on the Watchers themselves. Adrian gripped the steel rod in his hand. His knuckles were white, but his gaze was steady. Then let them come. Humanity has been at war with shadows long before you appeared. The succubus tilted her head, studying him. Her lips curved into a small smile, not mocking this time, but curious. You are either brave or foolish, perhaps both. Before Adrian could answer, the shadows stirred again. The envoys had not left. They hovered at the edge of the ruined doorway, silent and waiting, their eyes glowing like deep black holes. They did not strike immediately. Instead, their voices pressed into Adrian's skull once more, cold and powerful. Human. You cannot win. Surrender her, and you may live. Resist, and all your kind will suffer. Adrian felt their words crawling through his mind, like poison vines wrapping around his thoughts. His body trembled. For a brief moment, he wondered if they were right. He was one man with no weapon, standing against beings older than civilizations. What chance did he truly have? The succubus's voice broke through his doubt. They are trying to bend you again. Do not listen, he met her gaze. What do they fear? Her wings twitched slightly. You, or rather what you represent. Humans are not supposed to ask questions. You were meant to desire, to beg, to fall easily. But you asked for truth. That makes you dangerous. Adrian's lips curved into a faint smile. Then maybe it's time humans stopped begging. The envoys moved closer, their long hands glowing with black fire. But before they could strike, the succubus raised her hand. The fire around her fingers sparked bright, pushing the shadows back for just a moment. Then she leaned close to Adrian, her voice dropping to a whisper only he could hear. You still have 2 wishes left. You can end this madness now. Wish for immortality. Wish for power. With my strength, you could fight them. With my chains, you could rule them. Speak the word and it is yours. Her eyes glowed with temptation, her lips soft as she leaned closer. For centuries, this was how mortals fell. This was how they gave themselves willingly to her bond. Adrian's heart pounded. For one breath, he imagined it. Immortality, fire in his hands, alien empires bowing before humanity. With her power, he could crush the Watchers, burn their fleets, and write his name across the stars. The temptation was strong, almost too strong, but then he saw her expression. He saw the faint shake in her hands, the subtle flicker in her eyes. And he understood something. She was afraid not just of the Watchers, not just of his death, but of him, because he had already done something no human had before. He had shaken her certainty, Adrian drew in a deep breath and stepped back. No, I won't waste my second wish on myself. Her smile faltered. For the first time, she looked uncertain. You would refuse power? Even now, when you stand at the edge of destruction? Yes, he said firmly. Because this isn't about me. It's about my people, and it's about you. The last words made her freeze. Me? She repeated softly. Adrian nodded. You're bound. You said it yourself. You're a prisoner to their rules. Every wish, every contract, it's not your choice. It's theirs. And maybe that's why I was brought here. Not to become their pawn, but to break their chains. The succubus's eyes widened. For centuries, humans had treated her as a tool of desire, a cursed goddess, a demon to command. None had ever looked at her as trapped. None had ever cared. A strange warmth stirred in her chest, something she had buried long ago. The envoys hissed, their shadows flaring with fury. Do not listen to him. He deceives you. He is only human, fragile, temporary, nothing. But Adrian's voice rose above theirs, steady and strong. You asked what makes humans different. It's not greed. It's not strength. It's choice. We can choose to fight. We can choose to care. And I choose not to be your pawn, and not to leave you in chains. The succubus's fire burned brighter, flickering against the envoy's shadows. Her heart raced with emotions she thought long dead. Fear, hope, and something dangerously close to loyalty. The envoy's eyes blazed. The air filled with dark energy, heavy as iron. Then you have chosen war, human, and war you shall have. The ground split open, black smoke pouring through the cracks. The shadows thickened, swallowing what little light remained. Adrian raised his steel rod again, even though he knew it was useless. Then let it be war. The succubus stood beside him, wings blazing. For the first time, she did not see him as prey. She saw him as an ally, and deep in her soul, a question stirred that terrified her more than the watchers themselves. What if this human could truly break the chains? The air was heavy with darkness. The ruined lab groaned as shadows crawled across the broken walls, spreading like oil. The envoys had not struck yet. They stood still, tall and pale, their black eyes locked on Adrian Cole and the succubus. Their silence was more terrifying than any roar. Adrian's grip on the steel rod tightened. His muscles burned, but his spirit refused to bend. Beside him, the succubus's wings glowed faintly, her fire flickering like a torch in a storm. For centuries, she had watched mortals fall before this moment, but now she stood next to one who resisted, and it unsettled her more than the envoys themselves. The envoys' voices filled the room again, echoing inside Adrian's head. Human. You resist. But resistance is useless. We see every thought. We know every fear. Adrian's skull throbbed with pain. Visions clawed into his mind. He saw his childhood home in flames. He saw his parents crushed beneath alien machines. He saw Earth cities falling, oceans boiling, skies filled with watcher fleets. He heard billions screaming as the world burned. He gasped and nearly dropped the steel rod. His knees buckled. The vision was too real, too sharp. The succubus's voice cut through the storm. It is illusion. Fight it. Adrian gritted his teeth. His vision swam, but he forced himself upright. No, it's not real. The envoys pressed harder. Their black eyes widened and the visions twisted. Now he saw himself not a victim but a king. He sat on a golden throne, galaxies kneeling before him. The succubus lay at his feet, chained, worshipping him. The watchers bowed in defeat, their ships shattered. Wish, their voices purred. Wish, and this will be yours. Adrian's breath came quick. The vision was intoxicating. He could feel the weight of the crown, the power of endless empires. His chest ached with the temptation. The succubus watched him closely. She saw the flicker of desire in his eyes. She had seen this before. Every human, no matter how strong, eventually bent under the weight of their own hunger. Was he about to fall? But then Adrian spoke, his voice rough but steady. Power that comes from you is not power at all. It's just another chain. The vision shattered like glass. The envoys hissed, their shadows writhing. For the first time, their calm broke. The succubus's eyes widened. He had resisted again. Truly resisted. Impossible, she whispered. Adrian turned his eyes toward the envoys, fire burning behind his exhaustion. You think you know fear? You think you know weakness? You don't understand humans at all. We are not strong because of your gifts. We are strong because we keep fighting, even when there is no hope. The shadows lashed at him, striking like whips of black fire. Adrian stumbled, the steel rod knocked from his hand. He fell to one knee. His skin burned where the darkness touched him. The succubus moved instantly. Her wings spread wide, wrapping him in fire. The lashes of shadow struck her instead, burning across her skin. She hissed but did not move aside. The envoys hissed louder, their voices rising. "Traitor! You defy your masters!" The succubus snarled, her fire blazing brighter. For centuries she had been their tool, their prisoner, their perfect weapon. But now, standing between them and a single fragile human, something inside her snapped. "He is not like the others," she spat. "And I am no longer your slave." Her wings exploded with light, filling the lab with searing fire. The envoys reeled back, their pale forms twisting. The shadows shrieked, burning at the edges. Adrian pushed himself to his feet again, breathing hard. "You don't own us." "Not me, not her, not humanity." The envoys shuddered, their shapes flickering. For the first time, Adrian felt it, fear. Not his own, but theirs. They retreated a step, their voices sharp with rage. "This is not over. You will break. All humans break. We will return." The shadows collapsed inward, vanishing into the cracks of the floor. The envoys were gone, at least for now. But the weight of their promise remained, heavy as a storm on the horizon. Silence filled the ruined lab. Only the crackle of dying fire and the hiss of broken machines remained. Adrian leaned against the wall, his chest heaving. His body ached, his skin burned, but his spirit stood tall. The succubus folded her wings, staring at him. Her expression was unreadable, her red eyes searching his face as though seeing something she had never believed possible. "You refused them," she said slowly, "even when they offered you everything." Adrian met her gaze. "Everything is worthless if it's built on chains." Her lips parted slightly, but no words came. For the first time in centuries, she was speechless. In her heart, something dangerous stirred. Respect, and something even more dangerous. Trust. But before she could speak again, a deep rumble shook the earth. Outside, the sky glowed red as the Watcher fleet moved closer, their massive ships descending through the clouds. The envoys had been only the beginning. The true war was coming, and Adrian still had 2 wishes left. The sky above Earth was no longer the sky of men. It was the sky of giants. The Watcher fleet spread across the heavens like a black sea. Their ships were not metal like human craft, but vast shapes of living shadow, bending light and swallowing stars. Cities below stared upward in terror as night fell at noon. Humanity's defenses, satellites, rockets, weapons were already useless. The fleet had erased them with a single thought. Inside the broken lab, Adrian Cole stood with the succubus. Both were silent as the ground shook again, this time not from envoys, but from the arrival of something larger. A Watcher warship hovered above the earth like a floating mountain, its shadow swallowing forests and rivers for miles. The succubus's wings twitched uneasily. She had seen this before, worlds silenced, civilizations erased. But never had she stood on the side of those about to be destroyed. Her red eyes moved to Adrian. "It is over. You fought well, human, but you cannot face what comes now." Adrian's jaw tightened. "If it's over, it will not end with me crawling. Humanity deserves better than silence." The succubus almost laughed, though there was no humor. "You are stubborn to the point of madness." He looked at her firmly. "Then let madness save us." The air trembled. A dark beam of energy descended from the Watcher ship, tearing through the clouds and burning a hole in the ground not far from the lab. The earth cracked. Reality itself seemed to bend around it. The succubus whispered sharply, "That is not a weapon. That is a door. They are coming themselves." Adrian's chest tightened. He knew he had little time left. He clenched his fists. 2 wishes still remained. He could wish for power, for an army, for immortality. He could stand as a king against the shadows. But when he looked at the succubus, trapped, chained to a role she never chose, his decision became clear. He stepped closer. "My second wish." Her eyes snapped to him. "Think carefully, human. This choice will shape everything. Do not waste it." Adrian's voice was steady. "I wish for your freedom." The succubus froze. Her wings stilled. Her lips parted, but no sound came. Freedom, it was a word she had never been offered. Mortals begged her for riches, power, lust, glory. No one, not in all her centuries, had wished for her freedom. Her throat tightened. She almost shook her head. "You don't understand. That is not possible. My chains are older than your species. Adrian's eyes didn't waver. I don't care. That is my wish, the world shuddered. The lab filled with fire and light as the ancient pact twisted. The succubus screamed, not in pain but in shock, as invisible bonds around her shattered one by one. For the first time since her creation, the burning symbols that marked her wrists and ankles faded to nothing. The collar of shadow around her neck dissolved like smoke in the wind. She fell to her knees, trembling, her wings spread wide in disbelief. She could feel it, her will was her own. No strings, no masters. She looked up at him, her red eyes shining not with fire but with something softer. Why? She whispered. Why would you waste a wish on me? Adrian reached down, helping her rise. His voice was calm. Because you are not my jailer. You are a prisoner, same as me. If we're going to fight the Watchers, we fight as equals or not at all. The succubus stared at him, her heart racing. No one had ever spoken to her this way. For the first time, she felt something stir inside her chest that was neither hunger nor duty. It was dangerous. It was powerful. It was hope. The ground split wider as the dark beam grew stronger. Figures began to emerge from the door of shadow. Vast forms, taller than buildings, wrapped in darkness. The true Watchers. Their arrival made the air scream. The succubus's wings burned brighter than ever, flames pouring from her like a living star. She turned toward Adrian, her voice fierce. You have given me freedom. Now I give you war. She rose into the air, her fire clashing against the darkness of the descending Watchers. Her scream was not one of pain but of defiance echoing across the ruined land. Adrian shielded his eyes from the blinding light. For the first time, he was not standing beside a chained demon. He was standing beside an ally, a free warrior. The Watchers stepped through the dark door, their eyes vast black suns, their voices rolling across the earth like thunder. You dare break our design. You dare free what we bound. Adrian lifted his head, his voice strong, cutting through the chaos. I am human, and I dare. The Watchers roared, their shadows spreading across the horizon. But this time the succubus did not kneel. She stood tall, her fire pushing back the endless dark. For centuries she had been their weapon. Now she was their enemy. And beside her stood the one human bold enough to free her. The true battle had begun. The ground split open like a wound as the Watchers stepped through the dark gateway. They were taller than skyscrapers, their forms wrapped in endless shadow, their eyes vast and black like collapsed stars. Every step shook the earth. Every breath bent the air. To stand before them was to feel the weight of eternity pressing down. Humanity had faced wars, famine, and alien invasions. But nothing compared to this. The Watchers were not conquerors. They were architects of chains, builders of cages. And now, Earth itself trembled beneath their presence. Adrian Cole stood at the edge of the shattered lab, staring upward at the titans of darkness. His hands shook, but his spirit did not bend. Beside him, the succubus burned like fire against the void, her wings a blaze of defiance. The Watchers' voices thundered inside his mind, shaking his bones. Human, you were meant to crawl. You were meant to beg. You were meant to fall. Why do you resist? Adrian's jaw clenched. Because we are not your slaves. The words sounded small against their thunder. But the succubus turned, her fiery eyes locked on him, and for the first time she smiled. Not with mockery, not with hunger, but with pride. The Watchers raised their arms. Shadows spread like tidal waves across the land, swallowing forests, rivers, and cities in silence. Humanity's last lights flickered. Adrian knew it was time. He still had one wish left. The final wish. The most dangerous of all. The succubus lowered her wings slightly, her voice urgent. You must choose carefully. With one wish you could crush them. With one wish you could live forever. With one wish you could rule the stars. Adrian shook his head. His voice was steady. This last wish isn't for me. Her eyes widened. She had expected many things. Greed, desperation, even martyrdom, but not this. Adrian lifted his head toward the Watchers. His voice cut across the storm. My third wish is this: humanity will survive. Whatever it takes, whatever the cost, my people will endure. The world shook violently. The Watchers roared in fury, their voices splitting mountains and boiling seas. The power of the wish tore through the chains of reality itself. The succubus cried out as fire burst from her wings brighter than the sun. She could feel the contract twisting, breaking, remaking itself into something new. Adrian's life force poured into the wish, burning like a candle against the hurricane of darkness. The Watchers lunged forward, their shadows descending to erase him. But the succubus rose to meet them, her fire clashing with their endless dark. She screamed not as a prisoner, not as a servant, but as a free warrior. Her flames burned their shadows back, tearing holes in the black sky. Adrian's body weakened. His legs buckled. He fell to one knee, every nerve in his body on fire. But his eyes stayed fixed on the sky. "Do you hear me?" he shouted, his voice hoarse but unbroken. "Humanity will not bow. Humanity will not vanish. We will fight and we will endure." The wish answered his words. Across the earth, the shadows faltered. The Watcher fleet shuddered, their vast forms tearing at the edges. The weight pressing down on humanity lifted slightly, like chains snapping one by one. The Watchers screamed. Their voices were thunder, but there was something new in them now. Fear. The succubus fought like a storm, her flames devouring the darkness. For centuries she had stolen human souls. Now she gave everything to protect one. But then she looked down. Adrian was on the ground, his strength fading. The wish had taken more than his body could give. She dropped beside him, fire fading, her wings folding close. "You fool," she whispered, her voice breaking. "You gave everything away for them." "For me?" Adrian's lips curved into a faint smile. His voice was weak, but his words were clear. "That's what humans do. We fight for each other." Tears burned her eyes, something she had not felt in 1,000 years. She pressed her hand against his chest, her fire flowing into him, but it was not enough. The wish had already claimed its price. Above, the Watchers' vast forms cracked apart, their shadows dissolving into the void. The fleet shattered, collapsing into nothingness. The sky cleared. The stars returned. Humanity was still alive. The war was over. The succubus lifted her head, staring at the sky, then back at the man who had changed everything. Her voice trembled. "You gave me freedom, and you gave your people survival, but you gave yourself nothing." Adrian's eyes closed slowly. His breath grew faint. "That's enough." His hand fell still. The succubus froze, fire flickering across her trembling wings. For a long moment she said nothing. Then she lifted her face to the stars, her voice carrying like a vow. "I will not let him be forgotten." She rose into the sky, her wings blazing brighter than ever before, a burning guardian over a fragile but unbroken world. And in the silence that followed the fall of gods, humanity stood alone, scarred, trembling, but free.